Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Run Wild with Us, Ask Us Anything. I am Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. And I am here with you yet again on another Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. For those of you who are not familiar with this, Running Wild Press, we basically are an independent press that we publish great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box. And we also have an amazing, amazing press called Rise. And with Rise, we publish great genre stories uh, written by people of color. We more so target those voices that are lesser heard within the storytelling community. So, this is your chance to ask me whatever you want. I want to apologize a little bit up front. Today, I have been battling a headache that I keep thinking I've gotten rid of it, and then boom, the baby comes back. So, if I seem a little bit off, that's basically why. So, some of the most common questions that we receive are around things like storytelling, craft, how to submit to Running Wild Press as well as to Rise. If we have any recommendations in terms of publishing, state of the publishing industry, state of the storytelling industry, and so on. I am totally open to answering your questions around that. If you submit me a question that's maybe not along those lines, I may not answer it, just as a heads up. But generally speaking, I pretty much answer every question. If you are watching this and it is not 2 p.m. Pacific time on a Saturday, this is not a big deal. All you have to do is pop your question in the comments section. I am more than happy to answer it either at the next Run Wild with Us or possibly in the actual comments themselves. If you are watching this and it is 2 p.m. Pacific time or 5 p.m. Eastern time, awesome, awesome, because you just pop your question in the comments section. And again, I am more than happy to answer it. So give me a sec. I just want to take a sip of coffee. I'm kind of wondering if my headache is from a lack of caffeine. Those of you who are coffee addicts or caffeine addicts, you feel me. Sadly, I do tend to be one of those. Oh, so Jonathan Mayberry asks, what's on the slate for 2021 with Running Wild Press? Thank you. And Jonathan is actually a dear, dear friend of our press. We love, love, love him. And he's a huge advocate for diverse voices. So, great question. So, 2021, Running Wild Press is actually looking to publish several stories, around 18 at this juncture. We already have our editors hard at work on both our short story anthology as well as our novella anthology. Now, why that may seem like, yeah, like, why do I care? The reason it's a big deal is that I actually originally started Running Wild Press as a way to get great storytellers, great narratives out there that, maybe mainstream publishing kind of said, I don't care about this story. I don't see why I should publish it. And oftentimes those stories tended to be stories that were fantastic, but they didn't actually fit within a specific genre. And because of that, it meant that a lot of publications, when they looked at their own mission and vision, they said, oh, you know what, this doesn't fit with us. Well, that is our mission and vision. We want those stories. So it's a huge deal as well because this is our 5th year. You got it. We've been around for 5 whole years. That's a pretty big deal. So this is our 5-year anniversary for both anthologies. And we are actually planning on a few surprises for all of our amazing fans who have been with us. I mean, okay, maybe you haven't been with us from the beginning, and that's all good. Maybe you're newly with us, but some really great experiences and some great things that you get to enjoy with us with the 5-year anniversary. We also, and Michelle Bassett says, congratulations. Thank you. We are very excited by this. We also have a few amazing storytellers who are publishing with us in 2021. One of them, his name is Eric Gathers. Eric's novel actually originally was published in France, believe it or not. And it was one that got, I think it was like named Best Novel of the Year by Rolling Stone France. I mean, so we're pretty honored to have Eric on our slate for 2021. We also have someone who's considered an icon in poetry as well as in music, and his name is Larry Beckett. And we are publishing Larry Beckett's um, narrative poem collection called American Cycle. It's amazing, and I can't wait to get it to you. So, those are just a couple of the things on our slate for 2021 that I'm incredibly excited about. And I know that as soon as you get a hold of these, you will be too. So, Dennis Crosby asks, oh, and also, if you want to check out the full slate, we actually did a book launch, or rather a catalog launch for 2021 on December 15th. So, if you go to the Facebook account for Running Wild Press, or our YouTube account, or our Twitter account, you can actually go back and look at a recording of that really awesome event that we had that was hosted by Lisa Montaigne, who has been with us pretty much from the beginning. Lisa is pretty fabulous. Okay, Dennis Crosby asks, when will you start accepting submissions for 2022? You know what, Dennis? You can submit now. We actually just went through our backlog of submissions, and we went from, I'll just say, an unnamed number of submissions for standalone pieces and got it down to about 93. So the way that we work, because we really want to make sure that our editors and everybody who works on the different stories are really passionate about it, we basically go to them and say, okay, you tell me what it is that you would love to work on. And so that's what's happening right now. Our editors are going through those 93 submissions and identifying those that they are really interested in working on. Now, that said, while they're doing that, I am also still going through the submissions that are coming in now and seeing what else may fit within the Running Wild and Rise purview. So I really heavily encourage you to go ahead, send us your work. We are actually, again, we are looking right now for 2022 and 2023. And I anticipate those are going to be some really fantastic years. So please, please, please send us your stuff. Okay. Salim Ale. Hi, Salim. Lovely to meet you. The beauty of all women in the world is present within your eyes and your face. You are attractive. I don't know how, but the truth is the first look that I looked at you, you stole my heart. Your beauty is wonderful and natural, but you do not believe my feeling. Why? Salim, I actually thank you so much for the beautiful words. They're so incredibly kind and generous. I appreciate that. I'm just thankful that you are here with us right now and that we have an opportunity to talk. If you, Salim, have any questions around publishing, storytelling, narrative, it could be ebooks, it can be paperback, it can be hardback, it can be audiobooks. If you have questions about storytelling that transcends all the different forms, man, bring it on. I'm more than happy to. If you want to talk about craft, I'm here. If you want to talk about anything along those lines, I'm here, and I'm thrilled to have that conversation. Also, guys, so I have two cats, the Master and Margarita. This here is Margarita, and they really love to visit on occasion. So we may have them joining. You also notice that my screen seems to go all jittery. It's because one of them's decided that they really want to bond with my iPad. and so you may see that happen here and there while we're live. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to take another sip of coffee. And again, this is your chance to pretty much ask me anything. Jonathan asks, Any anthologies on the horizon for RWP? Yes, yes, yes. We actually do. So we have our 5-year anniversary novella anthology. We have our 5-year anniversary short story anthology, and we have an anthology that's all new. So this one is focused on, we call it the Red Flag Anthology. So the idea came about when we had a storyteller's happy hour, and Lisa Montaigne had told us about a personal moment that had occurred in her life, that was a big red flag, I guess you could say, from a relationship perspective. And so she came up with the idea of like, hey, it would be great if we did an anthology that's focused on red flag stories. So that submission is open now. If you have a great red flag story, again, it could be nonfiction, it could be fiction, it could be essay, go ahead, go to our submittable page, and please feel free to submit to us. It's really super easy. If you're not sure how to find our submittable page, you can just go on submittable.com and then do a search on Running Wild Press. It will take you to our main page, and just take it from there. Right now, literally everything except for our short story anthology and our novella anthology are open for submissions. So please take the opportunity, go in, check it out, see if there's anything that you might be interested in, and send us your work. We'd love to hear from you. So Celine says, as for love stories, what do you think, my sweetheart? Well, thank you, Celine. That's very kind of you. So we really do focus more so on cross-genre stories. So that's stories that maybe it has, it's a literary story and there's a romantic element to it. Maybe it's a horror story, believe it or not, and it has a romantic element to it. Things like that. We don't typically publish straight up romance stories. That said, for Rise is our press that focuses on diverse voices. So we really focus on like LGBTQ, people of color, those areas that maybe, or communities that are a bit more marginalized. And for those, we are really looking for genre stories. So that does include love stories. So if you have a great love story, please feel free. Send it along. We literally just reopened our submission period for Rise. Now, one thing I want to make you aware of for Rise is that if you send us your work now, typically it means that we're probably going to publish it in 2022, just because of the time it takes to go through all the submissions and then edit the work and then prepare it for actual publication, all that kind of thing. So send it to us. We really look forward to reading it. It would be absolutely wonderful. Awesome. Okay. So also, for those of you who are watching, if you are an author or an editor, and we are currently on the lookout for editors. So what I mean by that is we would love, or we are going to expand our editorial family. We do consider ourselves to be a family. We are all here for each other. We all work together. We all support one another. So with that in mind, we are looking to have additional editors join our family, specifically to work on Rise. So we really want more diverse voices, people from diverse communities to come and join us. And these individuals would be most likely specifically working, again, on Rise stories, on Rise novels and nonfiction works. So if you or someone you know might be interested in this, then we would love to hear from you. Cool. Okay. Salim says, you are great at analyzing the logic and also at persuasion. Oh, well, thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you so much for the great compliments. Okay. So Again, I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. And I am doing this every week just to say, hey, um, give everybody a chance to ask whatever questions that you may have regarding, it can be about Running Wild Press, it can be around Rise, it can be on publishing, it can be on creative writing, it can be on storytelling in general. And I am more than happy to answer it. All you have to do is pop your questions in our chat. Okay. Dennis Crosby asks, congratulations on the success with Rise. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so beyond thrilled to even have the opportunity to start Rise. I think it's truly a blessing. Love and appreciate the creation of that outlet for diverse writing voices. Any thoughts or plans for additional imprints for RWP down the road? You know what, Dennis, that's a great question. I'm totally open. The reality is that Rise came about because around the time of Black Lives Matter being heavily in the press, a few people had come to me and said, hey, Lisa, do you have a response for this? What are you going to do about it? And I was like, you know what, that's a great question. And so I put out a call for acquisition editors for Rise, and so here we are. So Dennis, honestly, if you or if anybody watching has ideas for additional imprints, the one caveat I have is that we truly typically, what we do it with a purpose. So it's more than just hey, let's just start a press, or let's just start a publishing house. Everything that we do it with a purpose. So if you or anybody has any ideas for additional imprints, go ahead, shoot me an email at runningwildeditor.com, at gmail.com rather. And just let me know what your thoughts are, how you think it would be structured, what's the purpose, what's the intent of the imprint, and we can take it from there. Cool. Awesome. Cremo says, bonjour, Lisa. Bonjour. Lovely to see you. So I also sometimes get questions around my thoughts on narrative. And so, which I actually find to be a really fascinating question, and one that it may kind of blow your mind a little bit. So I actually view publishing houses, and I view anything that puts a story out as I call it a content creation or a content incubator. And what I mean by that is that in today's society, we live, well, not just in today's society, human beings in general, we pretty much live by story, if you think about it, right? You follow stories in the news. You, when you were growing up, you probably had bedtime stories that your parents told you, or your grandma. You watch TV, and TV, it's all stories. If you read comic books are it's a linking of vignettes that then results in a longer story. Graphic novels are stories. Memoirs are stories. Novels are stories. Short stories are stories. And we relate to each other through story. We relate to each other through narrative. And it's how we really join together as a community, and really associate with one another, and find a brethren, I guess you could say, or a sisterin. I don't know. Anyway, so oftentimes these are basically forums that we then find stories and characters and narratives that we are passionate about. And oftentimes when you're passionate about something, you want to see it wherever you are, right? So it's a great way to identify or to create new or tweaked or more newly invented stories that can then be shared. It can be on your phone, it can be on TV, it can be in film, it can be in comic books, it can be in graphic novels, it can be in memes. So it's really those kinds of things. Like that's really what narratives do. Is narratives they are they are not limited to a distribution method. They are not limited to a channel. A really great narrative can be told um, on multiple forums. So again, anything, TV, film, book, ebook, um, audiobook, you name it. So that's my $1.25. Salim says, I wish I could communicate with you because you convince the soul and address the feelings and feeling. Our hearts have loved you so much. We hope that our friendship will remain forever. Absolutely. I would love for us to be friends forever. That would be absolutely amazing. So, Sane Kranti says, leave everything, ma'am. Who are you? Well, hi, Sane. It's awesome to see you and fabulous to meet you. So I am Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. We publish great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box. And we have been blessed to have 2 books named Best of 2019, 1 book named to Best of 2020 by Kirkus Reviews. We've had multiple starred reviews. We've been blessed to have many great people come forward and just speak incredibly highly of us. So I think we're doing pretty good. We are currently entering our 5th year in existence. So this is our 5-year anniversary. And in our 5th year anniversary, we are really excited to bring to you even more great stories, a couple of anniversary collections. So our intention is that we are going to publish not only our 5-year anniversary paperback, or not paperback, short story anthology and novella anthology, but we're also going to offer a deal so that you can get the previous anthologies from the previous 4 years and really kind of get all these amazing stories in your hands at a nice price. So, Salim asks, what do you think of writing poetry from your point of view? I'm going to totally own this, Salim. I am not the best poet. I know amazing and fantastic poets. And actually, one of our editors, Benjamin White, how we found Benjamin was Benjamin had submitted to us a narrative poem that was just mind blowing. And when Ben and I started talking, I realized he wasn't just incredibly gifted as a poet, but he was also incredibly gifted as an editor. And so he joined our family. We actually do publish poetry. We focus on narrative poems. The reason that we focus on narrative poems, and that just basically means it's a story, it's a poem that has a story within it. And the reason we focus on narrative poems is because our whole mantra is great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box. So that means that it's a story, right? It has to have a narrative element to it in order for us to publish it. So awesome. Okay. Sane says, send me links. And Sane, I think that's an awesome question. So what we do is you can go ahead and find out more about us by just simply going to your browser and typing in runningwildpress.com. You will then find our website, and on our website, you will find ways to go ahead and check out more about our press, as well as ways to purchase some of our products. So I'd love it if you would check out runningwildpress.com. I'm very proud of that site. We tried to make sure it was a great balance of informative and fun and engaging, whether you're an author or an editor or a reader. So please go ahead, check it out. Luke Kendall asks, do you like Oasis? I think you're referencing the band. And yeah, sure, back in the day, I liked Oasis. I didn't know that they were still around. If you mean like more of like a relaxation place, that like an oasis where you get away from the world. I mean, who doesn't love an oasis? Man, it's like, whew, I could use an oasis now. I actually have a dream that I'll make my backyard more of an oasis. How fun would that be? You can just step out into your backyard and have, uh, you know, a fireplace and or a fire pit and a running um, waterfall and a nice little relaxing place where you can just sit back and read a book and just chill. I mean, sounds like heaven to me. So that is on my personal to-dos or my personal goals. So Jonathan asks, which genres do you prefer not to publish? Oh wow, that's a great question. Um, so we typically really for Running Wild Press, we typically focus on cross genre. And cross genre typically means that it has elements from multiple genres. I don't know that there's a genre that we don't publish. More so, it's more about it being great writing in all honesty. For Rise, we publish so Rise is a little bit more focused on specific genres, and I don't know that there's one that we're avoiding. I'd say that I personally am better versed in science fiction, fantasy, thriller, um, uh, cross genre, mystery, horror, dark fiction. I mean, in all honesty, I'm actually pretty well versed in basically everything other than romance. I know the romance structure. I've just never personally gravitated toward that. I think, like every 13-year-old, I read a couple of romance books here and there, but I've never really gravitated toward that genre. Um, that said, that because of how we pick our books, where I do a first pass, and I'm really more so looking at, is this a story that is well structured? Is it well told? Um, does the writer understand how to structure the beginning of a story? Do they understand? Are they properly introducing the narrative? Um, I'm looking to see if it is purely in a specific genre, just because if it is, then it wouldn't really fit for Running Wild Press. And but I'm not necessarily looking at it from well, change that. For Running Wild Press, I am looking if it's solidly in a specific genre, because I'll recommend that the author submit to publishing houses that are focused on those genres. For Rise, we basically take all genres. So there isn't really a limitation with that. But what's interesting about us, and which is similar to what I understand that St. Martin Press does, is we then have our authors pick the stories they want to work on. So we have them go through all the stories that I've already vetted and then just say, okay, you tell me, what ones are you interested in working on? Now, there will be ones that on occasion I'll come forward and I'll say, you know what, Peter, I think you would be amazing to work on this specific piece, right? Because there's something about the style, there's something about the writing that I think is a great fit. I did that actually with Alicia Delorey's book, Something is Better Than Nothing. It's a memoir that's coming out in March around her experience with her husband's PTSD when he came back from war. And which is a perspective that we had never seen before. Now, Ben White had also been in the military and had seen some action. So I went to Ben and I said, dude, I think this would be a great fit for you. I think you would be amazing at editing this. And he was like, Lisa, I've never seen this type of story before. I would love, love, love to edit it. So it is a little bit of a balance, but our initial go-in is typically that the editor picks the stories that they want to work on. And again, they're doing that right now. So if you have sent us your work in the last year and you have not heard back from us, believe it or not, that's a good thing. It means you're still in consideration. And so I want you to please, I beg of you, please be patient. because we will be getting back to you soon. We are slowly sending offers out again for the 2022 slate. So, okay, cool. Dennis Crosby says, can you talk about the do's and don'ts of submitting? Things people should do and absolutely not do when submitting. Oh my gosh, that is such a great question. So I'm going to give you the Lisa Kastner version of do's and don'ts, and then I'm going to give you the broader within publishing in general do's and don'ts. Okay, so the Lisa Kastner do's and don'ts. One, my first suggestion is that you want to make sure you have taken the time to go to the submission page and thoroughly read everything that the publisher is asking for or that they're saying they don't want. And then follow that. For Running Wild, we're kind of simple. We basically ask that you follow the standard guidelines, so double space, standard margins. We specify the word count for a submission for the story, so that you have a better understanding of like what we mean by novella from a word count perspective, what we mean by short story from a word count perspective, what we mean by nonfiction, full-length nonfiction, that kind of thing. So we're very broad. We try to make it as easy as possible so that you're really focusing more so on the story than worrying about like, oh my God, did I use the right font? Because believe it or not, I have seen that. I have seen publications that in their submission they specify like, you have to use Arial, 12-point font, double spaced, 1-inch margins. I've seen ones that specified, it had to be a .docx file. I've seen ones that told you what the naming convention had to be for the file, all of that kind of stuff. Now, although I don't do that, right? Like we don't do that. We'd rather that you are more focused on great writing, great storytelling. I understand why other publishers do that. Now, typically when you do see that, and again, you want to make sure you follow that, because usually when they're doing that, they may have some kind of organizational technique that they're using that they need, or maybe they personally only have can only open .docx files. Maybe they can't open PDF files, whatever, right? But sometimes it's because they really want to make sure that you can follow instructions and that you are a detailed person. And one of the best ways to do that out the gate is to just be very specific in terms of do's and don'ts of the submissions. And then they can tell from that if you're detailed and if you're good at following instructions. And you might actually be kind of surprised at the number of people who are not very good at following instructions. It can be kind of dramatic, believe it or not. Another thing that you want to be aware of for submissions. So if you send in a work and you don't hear back immediately, please give that publishing house, give their people time, give the readers time to review your work. I know you're really excited. I know it's like, oh my God, I can't wait. I know that the second you send something in, you're immediately praying that, all right, I hope that they pick it up, right? I know that because I'm a writer too, been there. We're all there, right? Every editor I know is also a writer. So we all feel you. That said, please just be patient and understanding and just give them time. Don't keep emailing them, asking them if the piece is still under consideration. If you haven't heard anything, then yeah, it's still under consideration. I can pretty much say that across the board, that is probably true, unless they tell you otherwise. So if a publication has a different methodology where they don't necessarily contact you directly to tell you if your piece has been accepted or not, then assume that. Always assume if you haven't heard anything, then your piece is still under consideration. It is not beneficial for you to keep emailing them and asking, are you still looking at it? Are you still considering it? When do you think you'll tell me? It's just not very healthy to do that. Yeah. So just again, you want to make sure that you're patient and you follow all the instructions and the guidelines that the publisher has presented. So cool. I hope that helps. Also be aware. So some places they don't take submissions directly from an author, and others do. So be very aware of that. Many publications they really only take agented submissions. We actually do both. We take both agented and unagented. I totally get why some publications only take agented submissions. Again, the thought behind that is that these stories have already been vetted, and so there's a certain perceived safety around the quality of work that they're going to receive if it is an agented submission. So just again, it's just something to be aware of. For us specifically, for Running Wild, I do get submissions through email. I ask you, please don't do that. And I'm not asking that because I'm like, you know what, screw you. I don't want submissions directly to my email. It's more so because, dude, I get hundreds of emails a day. I mean, seriously, hundreds. I will make you a bet that when I am done this in the last hour, I will have gotten at least 100 emails. And that's only to one of my emails because I have my official Running Wild email and then I have my own personal email. And I'm going to tell you, they're both going to be freaking red hot with emails. So, with that in mind, that's why I really, really, really ask that everyone, if you're going to submit to us, send it to our submittable page. And I get that it feels more intimate, like, you're going to get a more direct, a more personal interaction if you send the submission to me directly. In reality, it's probably going to get lost. Again, just because I get so many emails. And so please, please, please just go ahead, send it to our submittable page. If you do email me directly, I'm probably just going to ask you to send it to submittable anyway. So just something to be aware of. Cool. Okay. Salim asks, watch you in the story that ends with sadness and that ends with a happy ending, and Rick, who is the most beloved influencer, Lisa. God willing, you will drink with health and contentment. Well, thank you. God willing, you as well will drink with health and contentment. I wish that everybody actually has an amazing 2021. 2020 has been so challenging. And I know that, especially in the United States, we're starting off with quite a bit of challenges out the gate. So hopefully everything just can only get better from here. Fingers crossed. Cool. Okay, so if you are new to this, today is January 9th. It's a Saturday, and we're a lot after 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. This is a Run Wild with Us, Ask Us Anything. I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. Sometimes it's just me that I'll sit here and I'll basically answer pretty much any question that you have. Sometimes it's me and some of our authors. Sometimes it's me and maybe one of our editors. Hey, whatever. But we're happy to talk to you guys. We love hearing from you. We love getting your questions. It's just so fun to actually have a chance to interact and engage. So if you're wondering, like, why should I listen to this chick, right? Like, so what? You're here live for an hour. I don't care. Well, that's a great question. I've been around publishing for like 20 years now. I have been, I'm a writer, I'm an editor. I started Running Wild Press. We've been blessed with a couple of best of the year books, several starred reviews, really great reviews. So I think we're worth to listening to as much as any other expert. So uh, Jonathan asks, which books helped launch RWP? So from an influence perspective, I would say so it was actually sort of an amalgamation of several, not just books, but also experiences that launched RWP. So one is I read a couple of novellas when I was at Yale Writers Workshop, which at the time Terrence Hawkins was the executive director, and these were great novellas. And when I made friends with the authors of those novellas, and when I asked them, in the subsequent years, like, hey, did you publish it? They all had the same response, that they couldn't find a home for it because nobody was really publishing novellas. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I also had submitted, I myself had submitted several works, and I had taught several workshops. And a lot of times when people would go out and put forward their work, they would get feedback that, hey, you know what, I really like this piece, but it's just not right for us. It's not quite something that we would be interested in publishing. And I thought it was horrible because from a craft perspective and a narrative perspective, these things, they were spot on. I mean, I couldn't imagine them not having a huge fan base. So I thought, this doesn't really make sense to me. I don't understand why there are all these great stories that deserve a really big fan base, and the only reason they're not out there is because um, these different publications don't view them as sitting directly within that publication's um, genre, I guess you could say. So with that, we decided to go ahead and start Running Wild Press. Now, from a craft perspective, there are a couple of books that I really, really, really recommend everybody looking at, because I can definitely say that they have influenced my own views and my own approach to craft. So I would say one of them is The First 5 Pages by Noah Lukeman. It is a very direct, very straightforward way to help you figure out if you are properly setting up a story. The other is Writing the Breakthrough Novel by Donald Moss, more so the workbook. And that actually, I have to give Jonathan cred for that. So I had read Writing the Breakthrough Novel, the book itself, years prior, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I totally get his viewpoints and so on. And then Jonathan had said, you know what, you should really read or not just read the workbook, but use the workbook as a way to help structure your actual story, as well as to make sure that it has all the different compelling elements that you need to make it be the kind of story that somebody wants to come back and read over and over and over again. And so I did. And I have actually taken that to heart and have been using that both personally as well as using it as a recommendation for authors who are polishing their works to make it a better narrative, right? Make it more nuanced. So Salim says, you are a great and kind person, and you have a heart as big as the sea that can accommodate everyone. Sure, this is my real feelings. Well, thank you again. That's very, very generous of you. Such incredibly kind words. I really appreciate that. I just hope that everyone who's watching this, either now in real time or in the future, that you're finding this valuable. And if you are watching this and it is not Saturday at between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific time, or 5 and 6 p.m. Eastern time, then you're going in and you're looking at our comments and you're seeing if there's anything that either I have answered or I haven't answered. And if there's anything I haven't answered, not a big deal. Just go ahead, toss the question in the chat, and I will be thrilled to answer your questions. Cool. Okay. So sometimes people ask me questions like, well, why are you an editor? Now, what's funny is the reality is I had never had any intentions of becoming an editor. I had been an editor, like, everyone's an editor when they're in school to a certain extent, and more so from a journalism perspective, and as also in the corporate realm. But I never thought I would be one from a nonfiction or more of a like a broader narrative storytelling perspective. And then I had several friends who challenged me on it, and as well as my husband, and said, "Well, why just do it, right? Just see what happens. Just do it." So really, my first big soiree as an editor was with the Piccolata Review, and the Piccolata Review was an online publication that another dear friend of mine. So we had both been bloggers, and I mean, we blogged. There's this whole network of writers and editors and storytellers who all had blogs, and we all became buddies. And so he started this publication, the Piccolata Review, and he invited me to be an editor for the Piccolata Review. And so part of that meant that I also helped to pick out the stories that we were going to actually publish. So there was one story that I said, dude, if we don't publish this, then we're just stupid. Like we have no business being around. And it was the basis actually for Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford, that then became an international phenomenon. So honestly, I can just say how blessed I am to have had the opportunity to have been the first to publish that short story, and that I'm just honored that Jamie and I continue to be friends so many years. God, not 20 years later, but it's been quite a long time. I want to say 15 years later, something like that. And that actually also was an influence for us to start running Wild Press, because with that success and those experiences, then we realized, maybe we can, quote unquote, change the world through story, right? And that's actually my own personal perspective, is I think you can change the world through story. And I think that if you have the chance to do it, if you have the chance to expose people to viewpoints and to perspectives and to lifestyles that maybe they hadn't had before, if you can open people's eyes and make them more endearing and more understanding, and make this a much more diverse and inclusive world, then why wouldn't you, right? I mean, it only makes sense. So that for me personally is a big driver for having Running Wild Press and for having Rise, is because, I just think we should all, do whatever we can to love and care and understand each other. So, okay. Slim says, do not deprive me of your wise orientations. We hope that we will always contact you. I hope so. Well, thank you, Salim. That's so super kind. We're here almost every Saturday, again at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. East, or 5 p.m. rather Eastern time, for 1 hour. And again, if you're not available during this time period, it's not a big deal. You can just go ahead and check out all the recordings again, because we post it first. It's live on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and we record this, so you get to hear all my ums and ahs, which I'm sure is like so exciting. And but then you can listen to this whenever you want, whenever you're free. And so we actually, if you go back and you go to any one of those venues, you'll find a whole catalog of all these recordings, and you can check it out whenever you want, whenever you're free. And again, if there's a question that you have that either I have not answered, or that maybe I answered it, but I didn't answer it completely, it's not a big deal. Go ahead, pop it in the chat. or rather in the comments section, and I am more than happy to answer that question. Another big question that I typically get, more so on the side, people are like, why the hell would you name your cat Margarita? Well, the reality is I named, my cats are actually brother and sister. I got them from the same, like shelter. And when they were really super teeny, and so I named them The Master and Margarita after the Bulgakov novel. So if you're familiar with it, yay! I would call it one of the origins of magical realism, which is actually another one of my personal favorite genres is magical realism. If you are not familiar with it, no biggie. Actually, if you find the covers are actually usually pretty funny and typically involve a black cat. So anyway, there you go. Cool. All right, guys, we have about 10 minutes left. Again, I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. We actually are Running Wild LLC. So we have Running Wild Press, where we publish great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box. And we also have Rise. And with Rise, we publish great genre stories written by people of color and by those of other marginalized communities. If you are interested in submitting to us, this is awesome. We can't wait to see your submissions. Go ahead, send your submissions to our submittable page or through our submittable page, submittable.com. Just go ahead, go to submittable, type in Running Wild Press. It will take you to our page, and that is where you will see all the different submission forms that are available to you. We have one anthology that is currently open for submissions. It is the Red Flag Anthology. You can find out more about that on the submittable page. And it is going to be edited by Lisa Montaigne, who has been with Running Wild for quite a while. So I'm really excited about it. It should actually be a pretty fun anthology. Okay. Let me think. We have 8 minutes, guys. And again, this is Saturday, January 9th, between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific time. I am in 2021. I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a fantastic year for you, as it is for all of us. So Jonathan asks, when not editing, what do you read for pleasure? Wow, that's a great question. I've actually been reading, I'm currently reading Dread Nation, and I'm loving Dread Nation. It was actually recommended to me by a dear friend. It is a really interesting blend of young adult, a little bit of romance, a little bit of horror, because it's a zombie book, a lot of history. I think it's definitely something worth checking out. I'm actually also a big Toni Morrison fan. I'm a big, I have actually been reading Jonathan Mayberry novels. I'm in the middle of reading, I read Glimpse. I'm in the middle of reading Ink right now. And I actually have this habit of, I study whatever I'm reading from a craft perspective and from a narrative perspective. So it's one of those like leftovers, I guess you could say. So I never look at stories the same again, right? I'm always assessing it from a narrative and from a structure and a storytelling perspective. So I'm always looking for new stories. If you guys have favorite stories or favorite storytellers or favorite books, go ahead, message me or pop it in the chat, put it in the comments section. I would love to hear about them, because I am, like I said, I'm always looking for new stuff to sink my teeth into. I guess pun intended, since I'm reading a historical zombie film book. Salim asks, is your name Lisa Kastner? Yes, that is my name, Lisa Diane Kastner. You can go ahead and search on me. You'll find a whole bunch of stuff. Dennis Crosby says, are you working on any novels of your own? Wow, Dennis, that is an awesome question. Actually, I am. I am working on a novel that is based on a short story I had written for submission to a magazine. And when I was finished it, I realized, my God, this could actually be a really cool novel, maybe even a series. Who knows? So I have been working my tushy off to finish it, and I really, I'm actually really excited about it. It is a really really fun novel. It's very nuanced. It's also cross genre. You could argue it's like thriller meets magical realism meets dark fiction. It's got some romantic elements to it. Probably more so thriller and magical realism. So, oh my God, you guys are gonna have so much fun reading it. Seriously, it'll be a blast. So cool. Um, Let me see. What else can I answer for you? I'm actually kind of surprised because my cats have decided they're not going to terrorize me, which is unusual for them. Typically, at this point, one of them's on my head or crawling up my leg or something to that in that capacity. But right now, they're both kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and clean myself and go to sleep. So I'm not complaining, mind you. It's kind of nice to not have a cat crawling on my head. So I actually would love to have a dog too. I miss having a dog. When I growing up, I had cats, a dog, and no, a cat, a dog, and fish. So I do like having my little my friends with me all the time. All right. So with that, okay, we only have 4 minutes left. Guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead, pop it in the comments section. If you don't have any questions, it's all good. I'm thrilled to have you with us. I love your questions. I I feel privileged that you take the time to sit with me on it for an hour or maybe a couple of minutes, whatever is easiest for you. And, and we have a chance to chat during this time of COVID and our own, mass chaos. Um, it's funny that, like, I don't go out very often at all. I mean, I have pretty much a standard day is I get up, I work out, I then walk. And I mean, this is like super early in the morning. We're talking between 6 and 7 a.m. in the morning. So there's almost nobody out. I walk to my local Starbucks just so I can get some fresh air. And then I head back home. And after that, man, I don't see anybody. So, it's funny because I have dear friends from other countries who reach out to me and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? And I really have such a limited a personal direct view as to what's occurring because I have isolated myself so much. So also says, I'm in the UK. Our media just report opinion now and very seldom news these days. You know what? I find that to be true in the US as well. I remember growing up, my father was a radio personality and a journalist. And so he raised me in a very specific way when it came to storytelling and journalism. So it actually bothers me quite a bit that our news has become so incredibly biased. It makes it very difficult for me, at least, to really pay attention to it. It makes it hard for me to follow it because it's I prefer it being balanced. Now, also, what's really interesting about this is that I actually find the BBC to be more balanced than a lot of the American news forums. And yeah, I agree. Also, it's very biased, and in that bias is a control, and that's really not what you want. We really want to be well informed so that we can make intelligent decisions on our own, as well as a community. And it's very difficult to do that if all the information that you're receiving is really from one viewpoint. Salim asks, what are the elements affecting the story in your opinion? Wow, that is such a complex question. Um, my suggestion is there is a book called Elements of Story. Maybe possibly pick that up because there isn't it's not there isn't an element, there are multiple elements. So it's very complex. And with that, we are now, it's 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. I want to thank everybody for joining me. I am so honored to have you with me for our Run Wild with Us Ask Us Anything. I want to thank everybody who's asked us questions, everyone who's tuned in. I love you all. I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a fantastic week, and I can't wait